Today we're going to be doing a program review. So this one is going to be from Zoltan from Dude, Where's My Car? Um, Now, this is not going to be to trash anybody's programming. It's basically just to look at things and give my opinion on what I think is good, and what I like and what I think could be better, and make modifications. So this is going to be should be a positive experience. Now, let's go through and first talk about his goals because goals are important. If you don't have a goal, you can't be specific with your programming, and programming and training should be specific to the total outcome. So we want to make sure that we have long-term goals and then short and mid-term goals to make sure we're hitting our benchmarks. Um, when you're laying out a program, if you just put a bunch of random shit on the paper, then it's not going to be productive to what you're wanting to do. And it will give you a response, but it's not going to be exactly the response you're looking for. So with Muscle Nerds, what we tend to do and what we teach in our program design course is to get three goals. The first goal is some type of physique goal. That might be losing body fat. That might be just simply losing weight. That might be gaining muscle, but something. It might even be specific to I want bigger calves or I want bigger arms or whatever it may be. And that serves a purpose of us looking at a program and saying, okay, if the physique goal is fat loss, some of the parameters may change. If it's hypertrophy, some things may change. But then we also have to look at another two goals, which is do you have strength goals? Or are there certain lifts you want to bring up? Do you want to bring up the bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press, whatever that may be? And then the third goal is, do you have a conditioning goal? And so people may come with a conditioning goal because we train people from a lot of different ways of life and demographics. So we train a lot of people that are just interested in maximal strength. Some guys just interested in looking good naked. Some guys want to be more mobile, flexible. Some people want to do a half marathon, or even an ultra. So we need to know that starting out because that is going to provide a platform for what types of decisions we make and then how much emphasis we put into different areas. So, for example, if we just wanted hypertrophy and we didn't really have any strength goals, great. Hypertrophy is going to make you stronger, but it's not specific to strength. Whereas if we're doing something with maximal strength, then you're going to get a lot stronger, but you may grow slower than if you did something with hypertrophy. Now, if it's a program like this, where it's maximal strength with hypertrophy, great. Now we can focus on both of those things at the same time. So we could do something like having the first sets coming out, the first exercise choices might be big mid-range movements where you can use a lot of weight and they may be specific to the movements you want to get stronger at. Then you could have accessory and supplementary work that was basically more your volume work. And then those hypertrophy movements could be more specific to cleaning up weak areas in your big lift. Now, we don't have a lot of specificity of this, of like what type of maximal strength we're looking for, and that's going to be important. So what I would probably tell Zoltan here is give me two or three, big lifts that you want to improve on, and that would be a much more specific way of determining how we're going to choose the exercises to get to that long-term end goal. And then as well as with like hypertrophy, like how big are you wanting to get? And are we trying to stay relatively lean with this, which is my choice, is to do it long term and stay relatively lean and healthy most of the time, or do you not care and you just want to get turned into a fat turd and you don't give a shit and you'll just cut it off later? That's cool too. Not the way I typically do it. I would rather have people do it in a longer, more sustainable way, where we can keep, not saying they need to be 6% body fat, but trying to stay somewhere around like that 14-15% mark for a guy. And somewhere around that, 24-27% for a woman when they're trying to gain weight, right? So let's see, when did you start on this goal and when do you want to achieve it? I started 2 weeks ago and my goal is to continue it for at least 1 year. Okay, good. So we have a long-term view plan. That's great. It's much better to look at things long-term than short-term. What are your medium and long-term goals? Medium are 20% body fat. Now I have no idea where he's starting because it doesn't say. Strength with flexibility and mobility, and long-term are add 10 pounds of muscle and do a split as do a split. Okay, so split as a 215-pound 5'11 dude. Okay, so a couple of things here. Strength with flexibility and mobility. So the flexibility mobility part, if we're just looking at maximal strength with hypertrophy, they're not really going to line up that well. I've already looked at this program, kind of gave it a brief peek earlier, and we'll get there in a minute. But there tends to be a point where if you're looking at maximal strength and hypertrophy, but you're adding a lot of other shit to the plan, you kind, it's like polishing turds, right? You don't want to polish too many turds at the same time, because if you do, you just end up with shit everywhere, right? So we want to make sure that things are a bit more focused with that primary goal. So what I would say when we get to the programming is, I would be looking at, instead of a lot of flexibility and mobility work, because this program has quite a bit of it, focusing more on the weight training part of it, and utilizing lengthened range positions to help with that mobility. But if you have the time in the recovery, the way this one's set up, you could do a lot of extra flexibility mobility work. But if you did find that you weren't getting the results that you wanted to get, then what I would tell you to do is get rid of the flexibility mobility work and integrate that into your workout, which is your strength training workouts, which is pretty easy to do. Doing a split, it's like, okay, that's ambiguous. Are we looking at front split, middle split? So that's going to dictate what you do as well. And then also, if you're looking at like a front split, or do you want just want to get into a split, or do you want a proper split? So the difference is being like, most people will get into a split where their hips are doing whatever the fuck they can do. But a true split is keeping the hips square, which a lot of people aren't going to have the wherewithal to get into that specific split. So I'm just going to assume that basically just getting your legs going the opposite direction and putting your balls on the floor. I'm assuming that's what you're looking for, right? Because especially with the maximal strength and hypertrophy, getting into a true split, like what a gymnast or a dancer would do, would be very difficult if you're focused on getting really fucking strong. And it's probably going to take away a lot of your ability to produce strength. Because it's quite a bit of an excessive range of motion for a lot of people. And a lot of people aren't orthopedically built for it anyways. Or you'd probably see more people being able to get into it. There's a reason why people who are high-level gymnasts and people who are like high-level, like Cirque du Soleil and ballet and all that, they're built different. They're built a certain way, and it's conducive towards what their activity is, right? So, but again, we don't have that information, so I have to make assumptions, which the more information you get, the better judgments you can have and the better strategy you can make as well, because everything that we do when you're training is highly specific, or should be. If you don't have highly specific goals, you're not training, you're exercising. Okay, so there's a big difference. Just because you go to the gym doesn't mean you're training, because training is with intent and purpose. And you can't have intent and purpose without having clear, concise, solid goals in mind. Okay. So how long have you been training this style of programming? 2 weeks. Summarize your training history. Football, so he's from America, so we're going to say American football, or what people call gridiron over here. So if you're like European or anywhere outside the U.S., don't get all crazy. It's not real football. Okay, it is to Americans, but we'll call it gridiron American football, just to keep you guys from sending me hate mail. From the age of 7 to 14, soccer, which is what you guys call football. Swimming and cross country from 14 to 18. Military, okay. Football from the age of 7 to 14. Soccer, so the football. Swimming, cross country from 14 to 18. Military from 20 to 25. Gym bro science workouts. Stagnant for a few years, and at 30, slowly back in the gym. Worked with Allie Gilbert, who's my client, for a couple of years, but just wasn't all in as I should have been. So lots of inconsistencies on my end. Yeah, pretty common. Took the last year off all training, and now with my new CPT cert, I don't want to be a shitty advertisement to my clients, so I'm back in the gym with a better mindset. Good, bravo. You are your own billboard. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because your business will get a lot better. If you have any injuries you're training around, please detail them below. Dislocated left shoulder 2 times at 18, 19 years old. Never did physical therapy, so mobility is still a little different than the right shoulder. Left hip is in pain. Has pain in it. Working on flexibility and mobility on it causes knee, ankle, and lower back pain. Absolutely. Let's see. No other health issues. Purpose of the program to get stronger. I don't know how my phases will be set up. I just wanted to write a program for 4 weeks and see how it goes, and then build on it, to be honest. That's great that you're practicing your craft. writing programs and thinking about those programs and trying those programs is going to be the number one way you're actually going to get better at programming. And obviously, muscle nurse program design. How's it working for you after 2 weeks? I'm definitely feeling more flexible and stronger. Good. Slimming down, minor yet noticeable. All right. But here's the thing, like we're slimming down, which what's the purpose? To get more hypertrophy and maximal strength. So we also need to look at this saying slimming down is good, especially if you want to be 20% at some point and you're not 20%. You could slowly slim that down while adding muscle. But you haven't said here that you're getting stronger. You have said streamers. You haven't said that you're gaining muscle, which in 2 weeks you're not really going to be able to notice that to any great degree, unless you're on Dianabol, which is also another option that you could do if you wanted to. But what I would tell you is, Zoltan, is to make sure that you're taking some metrics like circumference measurements. That would be a good way to make sure that you're actually growing in the right areas. So don't just look at the scale. Don't just look at the pictures, because pictures can lie to you and the scale can lie to you as well. But add some circumference measures to that as well. So if you notice like your ab circumference, your waist circumference was getting smaller, but your leg and your shoulder and your chest and your quad, or where was I going with that? Your leg, arms, shoulders, chest, and all that stuff, that the circumference is getting bigger, then you're on the right track. If everything's getting bigger and your waist is getting a little bit bigger, nothing really wrong with that. But if the goal is to slim it down as well, that's going to be all diet mainly. So you want to look at that. And you said with the nutritional plan, you don't eat like shit. You're conscious of what goes in your body, but you're not addressing macros right now. I want to, but I really don't have that knowledge yet on how to write it and why. Okay, so I'm going to give you some tips on that. The most important thing initially, or the top two most important things, are going to be protein and calories. So what I would do is at least get a minimal amount of protein, somewhere around like 1 gram per pound of body weight. So since you're American, I've got to say that. But my videographer says I have to keep it in metric because I'm making too much work for him. So we'll go back to metric. So 2.2 grams per kilogram for me is going to be like, that's going to be your lowest amount. The way it looks like protein research is going is that for a long time they've been underestimating protein needs, and as measurements and testing protein assimilation get better, they're seeing that number going up and up and up. So it's like going from 1.2 grams to 1.4 to 1.6, 1.8. So it's moving that way, and it's basically moving towards the direction that bodybuilders have known since the early stages of bodybuilding. You're probably going to want 2.2 grams per kilogram. I personally will try to put clients on around 2.5 to 2.8. I've never seen any negatives to adding more protein, other than you may start pulling those calories. Those calories may be better to go into carbs or even fats. So you can't get to the point where your protein's so high, depending on your calories, you don't have enough for carbs, which is going to be important for hypertrophy and also like training intensity and fueling your workouts. So make sure you're at least protein, and then making sure your calories are high enough, right? But not too high, because you want to slim down. You don't want to get fat. So what I would tell you to do is I would personally start tracking for a small period of time, just to kind of, get a better idea and a better knowledge, better nutritional literacy on how the food's affecting you and how it works. And then once you've done that for a while, you have a pretty set plan, and you might touch base on that every quarter or every month or every training cycle to see if you're still on track, or go back to it if things aren't working correctly. So if you notice that you're not leaning out, or you're not putting muscle on, you're not getting as strong as you want to be, then I would go back and look at it. Has my calorie needs changed? The nice thing about protein is it doesn't really need to be changed. So once you set the protein, you're not going to gain or lose so much weight that it's going to alter the protein score. So you can kind of keep that as a constant. What I like to do with clients is keep fat at a constant as well. And we don't really need to worry about those. We can just move carbs up and down, and that makes it super easy for them to do. So that's what I would really recommend you do. You don't necessarily need to write a training plan, but figure out how many calories you should be taking, see how that affects you, and also make sure that you're taking account of your protein and keeping protein high enough. How are you sticking to the program? I have 4 active days, 3 active recovery days. I've missed 3 days in 2 weeks. 2 were active recovery days, and 1 was an active day. I would say sticking to it pretty consistently. Good, yeah. So if you're going to miss anything, especially on this program, would miss the active recovery days, because when we go through this, your training volume isn't all, like, it's not excessive. So if you miss those active recovery days, which for you is a lot of mobility and flexibility stuff, then that's not the end of the world. And it might actually be better for your muscle growth and your strength to have those days of just letting your body recover from the big days. That way you can focus on what's most important. The primary goal of this program is to build maximal strength and hypertrophy. Okay. Now, your thoughts on your training program. I'm enjoying each training session. I'm feeling much better, stronger, and more mobile, but I know I need to dial in my nutrition. Good. Yeah, we talked about that. You definitely, man. Nutrition is a large part of things, especially when it comes to something like creating physical change or physique change. Like, you could just eat whatever you want, and as long as you're having the minimal amount of protein that you need, you get stronger, right? Because that strength is mainly going to be attributed primarily to what you're doing in the gym. Now, when you look at hypertrophy or fat loss or any type of physical transformation type of goal, nutrition becomes massively important at that point. So if you're not keeping things accountable, if you're not like measuring these things, at least for a long enough time to build up some type of pattern, then you're probably shortchanging what you're doing. And to me, why would we go and spend time training at the gym and not want to optimize it, where the easiest way to optimize it is sleep and recovery and nutrition? So I would highly recommend that you get on the ball with that. Now let's look at the program. So concurrent programming, max strength with hypertrophy. So active recovery day is going to be flexibility, stability, mobility. On Sunday, looks like Sunday is an active rest day. So we've got some movement stuff, just movement, mobility, all that, some postural stuff, stretching and mobility. On Monday, we have our push session with some movement prep for shoulder stretch and mobility. Tuesday is going to be lower body day, hip, ham strength, and stretch and mobility. Wednesday's another active day where we're doing yin yoga. We're doing some shoulder, hip, posture, hamstring stretch and mobility. Thursday is our pull day, so working back, shoulder, stretch, mobility as the movement prep. Friday, the hinge day, so that's going to be like deadlifts or RDLs or good mornings, that type of thing. Hip, hamstring, stretch, and mobility. And then Saturday, we've got carrying brace day, so more like strongman type stuff of weighted carries, and then some posture, stretch, mobility. So already this is going to be a lot of work. I can see, like, with all, you've got a focus in a lot of different places. So if we look back at your primary goal was maximal strength and hypertrophy, and your kind of secondary, tertiary goals is the stretching, mobility, and the stability work. And I think you basically, you have way more flexibility, mobility work in here than you have your actual movements that you're looking for getting to your primary goal. So that's something we need to think about as we're looking through this. Okay? It's because with that really highly specific goal of getting stronger and getting bigger, that should be the majority of your volume. And keeping in mind too, that's going to be your biggest stimulus. And if we can get that stimulus, we need to find a range of, like, what's the minimal effective dose to maintain or to slowly grow? What's your maximal effective dose of how much is productive before it becomes just useless kind of junk reps? But I would tell you, like, right now, this is like this massive GPP phase, a general preparatory phase, where you got way too much shit going on. If you're already doing yin yoga, that's, depending on what you're doing with that's going to take care of a lot of this stuff. So you could potentially kind of slim this down and not worry so much about posture, stretch, and mobility, and just maybe stick to yoga. Unless you find that the yoga is difficult and you can't get into positions, then you may add some stuff back. But when I see a program like this, it's like, this is an ADD program. There's a lot of shit going on and there's no focus. So we need to create some type of focus here, and we need to see where we can minimize, use a reductionist type of thought process to reduce this stuff down to the base smallest level of what we need. Then we can have an added process after that and add things back where it's going to be productive. Warm up, reference Movement by Dave. No clue who Dave is. I'll have to look that up. But you've got your movement stuff is crawl with knees lifted, bear crawls, crab walks, Frogger, duck walk, monkey, elephant walk, hop, skip, jump, side slide, and then you walk 3 miles. All right. So you've got 2 reps at 10 yards each. Look, like this is totally fine. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of work, but you're gonna have to be realistic when you're looking at building strength, especially strength and hypertrophy. You want to minimize excessive stuff that you don't need to be doing. And one of the problems with what you're going to be doing here is this: you have, like I said, it's too scattered, and there's a lot of output, but you have no idea of what you're doing with your inputs. Like, are you actually eating enough for all the stuff you're doing? Because after looking through this earlier, is it quite a bit of work in here. But this stuff here with that warm up, you said ARD, mobility, move, locomote. Let's go back to the split and see where that fits. So that's going to be, looks like on a Sunday. And I guess that maybe that's it. I mean, if that's it, that's it. So you probably could keep that in, but I don't think it's all that necessary, to be honest. Now, if you're doing this type of stuff before you train, then I would tell you, at least training with weights, that I wouldn't be doing something like this because it's not going to be specific towards your programming, but I'm just not sure how you're doing this. Let's blow this up. Okay, so let's go back and think about that. What I just said, don't worry about what I just said, because then you have your specific warm up here. Okay, raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. So you got jogs, back pedal, high knee jogs, shoulder circles, arm swings, shoulder shrugs, neck rolls, scat push up, scat pull up, side shuffle, high knee skip, and then some sprints at 75%. So that is a pretty big warm up. Again, I'm going to tell you, like, if you're really focused on getting strong, that warm up should be specific to what you're doing. So most of the warm up you need is just practicing the primary lifts, at least your beginning lifts. So if you're going to go and have a squat session, the best warm up for that is just maybe you jog a little bit or walk on an incline and get warm to loosen up. But then most of that stuff should be based on like squatting. So like doing squat movements is going to be the best way to warm up for a squat, not doing a lot of ambiguous shoulder circles, arm swings, and all that type of stuff. So as you're getting into your warm up, you're going to see where you're having issues. And then you could be highly specific to that. So for example, if you feel like your ankles are restricted and you can't get in a full squat, great. Now stop for a second, stretch your ankles, stretch your calves, and see if that improves the movement. But a lot of this stuff, it just looks like, it's just like I'm just guessing. I'm just putting all this stuff just to have it in there. I'm not going to say I don't like it, because I think these movements like stretching and mobility work and all that is important. However, people have limited resources on which to train. And if your workout is taking you like 2.5 hours because you got all this excessive amount of stuff in, I probably would pull it out and just focus on the big lifts, because that is your main goal. So let's get to the main emphasis for this workout. That's 3. No, let's see. You got shit all over this page, man. We're gonna have to clean up this this little spreadsheet you have here. You got 1 there, then it moves to 3. Bring this back down. Where's 2? And you got more movement prep. So you got a warm up, which is all movement prep, and then you have another warm up that's also movement prep. So let's see, chair dips, dip holds, and box shoulder stretch, which I'm assuming is like a shoulder extension stretch, I'm assuming. But this is the thing, like this movement prep, that number 2, is probably all you would need for this. You don't actually need this number 1 warm up, because what we're doing in this workout is all upper body stuff too. So there's no inherent reason to be doing, backpedaling and high knees and things like that. So you could slim this down a lot and just do a generalized 5-10 minute warm up, and then do your specific movement prep if that is helping you get into better positions. And if that's helping with that shoulder you dislocated, nothing wrong with that. I would tell you on the chair dips, you have a 1 set of 10. What I would probably recommend you to do is add in something on your notes here. Spend some time in that stretch position. So instead of just banging out 10 reps, which I don't know how you're doing it, but there's nothing written in the notes. So I'm looking at this as like a really unfocused way of doing chair dips. Maybe do chair dips with some PNF movements at the bottom. So contract the muscle relax and sink into it to get more range of motion, because that's what you would be doing for this movement prep anyways. Prep the joint and prep the range of motion, make sure that you don't have any restrictions. So sitting on the side of that chair, if you scoot your butt off, start going down until you can feel some tension building in the anterior part of the shoulder. Now stop in that position and hang out for a few seconds, then push down into the bench. Push down like you're going to do a dip, but don't go up. Just hold that isometric position for, say, 10 or 15 seconds. Take a big deep breath, relax, and see if you get a little bit more range of motion. So you can use PNF, which is a proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. We're using a contraction to then allow the muscle to relax and get into a deeper position. So not a bad way of doing it, especially if you go into the gym and you take an assessment. Do I actually need to do this or not? So with the chair dips, you're looking at shoulder extension. How much shoulder extension do you need? Depends on what you're doing in the workout. So I like people having at least just cold, not doing exercise, 60 degrees of shoulder extension, but you don't need 60 degrees to bench press, right? You just need to see like how much shoulder extension you need in order to get into that position, and then make that more specific to the movement. The dip holds. It looks like you're doing the chair dips and then moving into that static position. But what I would tell you to do is, instead of thinking about doing those reps, do the PNF first, because that's going to be more productive and it's going to get your range of motion a lot faster. Dip holds, got that for static time, 30 seconds, that's fine. And then that box shoulder stretch, again, I'm not sure what that is. So I don't know if that's like a seated shoulder extension movement, something like that, but that's fine. You have a lot of, if this is all shoulder extension, you have a lot of that. When I'm looking at your movements, this is a push day. So good, it is highly specific to that. So nothing wrong with that. And then your 3 is going to be your actual training. So there's a couple of things here I would definitely modify. The first thing I would modify, and this is purely me being pedantic about it in the way I like to set up programs and the way I was taught. I hate when people do their series as numbers instead of letters. So again, coming from a Poliquin background, I much prefer, this has nothing to do with your programs, just me being picky, is A1, A2 instead of 1, A, 1B. Okay. And for you guys who do that and put A's, B's, C's, whatever, don't put A1 if there's no A2. It's just confusing. So just put A. Because you do at A1, you expect to see an A2. And it drives me nuts when I see programs like that. But Zoltan, you don't have to change that. That's me being picky. But if you train with me, I would do the A, B, C's, the A series, B series, instead of 1 series, 2 series, whatever. But it just depends on what you like. Now, it looks like you're using more of a post-exhaust type of workout for most of these. So when you look at your barbell bench press, you have 4 sets of 5. Great. That is highly specific towards getting stronger. Beautiful. Then you superset that with a dumbbell chest fly for also 4 sets of 5. What I would tell you, what I 100% would change this, don't do flies with 5 reps. A dumbbell fly, you're already in this really fragile position at the back or at the bottom of the movement, and you have this really long moment arm. So that's already going to create a lot more torque at the shoulder. You're better off doing that with higher reps. So I personally would change that to like 10 to 15. And then that would click off five reps really heavy. That would be your primary strength movement. And then you do your post fatigue with 10 to 15, and that would build up your extra volume for your chest and get more isolation on the chest. You have 3 minutes of rest between this. So I'm assuming you're doing A1, A2, and then 3 minutes rest. Nothing wrong with that. I don't use post-exhaust that much or pre-exhaust unless it's hypertrophy. I probably would tell you if it's maximal strength, I personally wouldn't do this. I would do the bench press by itself, just for the fact that when you do that bench press and you do the chest fly, when you go back to the bench press, your chest is going to be pretty fatigued. So you might end up having to take weight off the bar, which is fine for hypertrophy. But if we're looking at maximal strength, we need to have that specificity of, if I'm doing 5 reps, I need to make sure that my performance can stay up for that. So, but again, that's just me being picky. wouldn't necessarily need to do that. I personally wouldn't do it myself. I would have more focus on the meat and potatoes of the workout, which are those first exercises, and put the isolation stuff further down. Either that or do a post fatigue of, like, let's say you're doing barbell bench press, and then maybe you do well, there's nothing in here that would match up with that, but let's say you're doing like chest and biceps, like doing a barbell bench press with a curl or something like that might be okay. There's other reasons why you wouldn't do that with fatigue, but I personally would think about maybe doing, for high frequency, doing 2 upper body days and doing like chest and back in the same session, and then you could do those in an antagonistic format, which they wouldn't affect each other. So if you had like A1 bench press, A2 say a pull down or a pull up or something like that, and then you could keep both of them at, say, 4 sets of 5. That would be really good. And then you had that chest fly and, let's say, a row or something like that later in the workout, or reverse fly or something like that would make a really nice pairing. And then they wouldn't affect each other. They would actually make you stronger, because there's a slight percentage that you get when you do antagonistic pairings where you're pre-fatiguing one of the antagonists. Then when you go to the other side and work the opposite movement, it allows you to get more range of motion, and actually allows you to, it prevents the antagonist muscle from fighting you. So it actually will increase your strength a little bit faster. And these are small percentages, but those small percentages add up when you do this for a very long time. So barbell bench press, good. Chest fly, I don't think that's a great exercise to do at 4 sets of 5. I would tell you to double or triple out the rep range. On the second one, your barbell overhead press, 3 sets of 5. Dumbbell front raise, 3 sets of 5. Again, we're having that same conversation. I wouldn't put a dumbbell front raise after the overhead press with doing like 5 reps. It's just, there are some exercises that are good for low reps and some that really aren't that great for low reps. You can get away with it, but if we're trying to optimize this, then I think that's probably a better deal to use a rep range that adds up to the exercise in a little more practical sense. Dumbbell bent arm lateral raises, okay. So we've kind of hit like anterior, lateral, posterior, and then we have a dumbbell triceps extension. See, those actually match up really well, but again, the rep ranges aren't great for that. Like a lateral raise at 5 reps is not a great choice. Again, I would move that up to, say, 10 to 15 on that. Dumbbell triceps extension at 5 reps, that's okay. But again, you have isolation movement, I'd probably raise the reps up a little bit. Then you have dips and push-ups, and you're doing those at 1 set to failure for each. I don't know why you're doing it that way. I would not do that, and I certainly wouldn't pair a dip with a push-up. You have there's too much overlap between those two movements. It's like you're going to be sacrificing a lot, right? You hit dips for however many reps you're going, and then you move right into push-ups. You're not going to have a whole lot of push-up strength left. So what I would do is, if you're going to do some type of AMRAP with that, pick one or the other and then focus on that. And in the next training phase, maybe you alternate it with that choice. So in this workout, you might say, well, I already have the bench press and the fly working this pattern here. Then, instead of push-ups, which is basically overlapping the same, then maybe you try dips and go to this pattern here. Might be a better choice. But like, I personally would tell you to, like, man, I'm having a hard time with this. It's like man, I actually don't not like it that you have like a big AMRAP movement at the end, because then that's good, because you're also keeping accountability for it, like how many you're trying to get to. What I would do is I would set a rep range for that. So do that as an AMRAP and set your rep goal, and then load it. So you have banded if max is lower than 20. So right now your personal max is like 16 banded. First thing is I get rid of the bands. I get rid of those. If you can't hit the dips really well at the end of the workout, then you may actually go to push-ups or go back to bench dips, and then work on getting to the point where you can get the dips. You probably actually would be better off moving the dips, replacing that with a barbell bench press, because at least the barbell bench press has some scalability. So you might even think about taking those dips and make that your A1, and take the barbell bench and make that your A, B, C, D1 or your D, and just set a certain, find a weight you can do for, let's say if 20 reps is going to be the top of your range, find a weight you can do for 20 and then add a little bit more and keep adding until you maybe go to 15 and then work that up to 20. So you could do that. You could do the progression model like that. Okay. Now you have also, it looks like your energy system work. You're doing some elliptic power intervals. So 7 seconds max effort with 53 seconds of rest and 10 rounds. Now, if that is in this workout, strength workout, nothing that wrong with it. But again, you haven't set any like energy system or conditioning types of goals. So my question is, why is that even in the workout when your primary goal is maximal strength and hypertrophy? If you wanted to do energy system work, take some of that mobility work that you've got a ton of, remove that and just replace it with the energy system work and do that on a separate day or in a separate session that's away from this one. When you're looking at, like, again, hypertrophy, you want to try to optimize what you're doing. You haven't said you're on any type of performance enhancing drug, so I'm assuming you're natural. If that's the case, that 4 for me wouldn't be energy system work. It would be protein shake or some type of meal replacement shake, like getting in some recovery as close to the workout as possible, and not spending all this time doing your hypertrophy and maximal strength work and then spending another bit of time doing your energy system work, when you should be using that probably for recovery. Now, if you didn't have a lot of time and you had to do it like this, you could do it like that, because you have optimal ways of doing things and you have practical ways. So it might be more practical for you to just fit it in here. But I would even tell you, why don't you just put that at the front part of the workout? Just use that, do your movement prep, and then do your energy system work, and then go into your workout. So then you can have your post-workout feed as close to the end of the workout as possible without doing something that now you're having to recover from. And then your last stuff is your cool down. You have some dead hangs, child's pose, pigeon pose, cat cow, pinnacle box breathing. I like the box breathing here. All the cool down work, you don't actually need it. You have plenty of mobility and flexibility work. It doesn't belong in your strength training workout. So kind of summarizing this, and it's going to be the same for all the other workouts because you have a tremendous amount of work. Keep the strength workouts to doing your strength stuff. Remove anything that's not necessary. You don't need this warm-up one. You don't need any of that. The only thing I would tell you that's probably good to keep in here is, if you wanted to put some, shoulder circles in there, some cars in there, if that works for you. If you want scat push-ups and pull-ups, might be okay. But you definitely don't need like sprints, side shuffles, high knee skips. You don't need back pedals, high knee jog for this one. So kind of slim that down. It'll save you time and allow you to have more energy to focus on the stuff that's actually mattering, or actually matters, because the theme of the workout is strength and hypertrophy. Now let's go to the next day. And again, just assume, so I don't have to repeat myself, all the stuff I just said applies to this. You have a lower body workout. You have in that warm up, you've got a lot of lower body stuff, the leg swings, all this. But my question is, like, why do we need all that? Because the stuff you're doing in your workout is mainly static movement positions. It's not a lot of dynamic work. If you were going out and you're running sprints, I would tell you that this warm up is going to be a good idea before you go off and sprint. But you simply don't need it. I would just tell you to do a few sets of warm-ups before your lifts, and that would be enough, right? Your movement prep wide squat, okay, runner's lunge, butterfly stretch, okay, that'd be totally fine. I don't think you need it, but again, you have a high focus on mobility and movement stuff in your programming, but that doesn't line up with your goals, right? Your workout, safety bar squat with a safety bar split squat. I like that pairing, and I actually don't mind that 4 sets of 5 on the safety bar split squats, especially if you're going down and spending a couple of seconds in that bottom lengthened position. Like, that's a way you could integrate mobility with your strength and conditioning stuff. So hit your safety bar squat, go into that safety bar split squat, but then hang out in the lengthened position for a few seconds. And that would be to me, that would be a really good way of removing some of the mobility stuff, the excess mobility stuff you have, and just kind of concentrating that in an area where you can optimize things and not have to spend so much time like directly working on mobility. Leg press, I I'm not a I'm not that keen on a leg press at low reps. I think leg press is going to be much better at higher reps. So on that leg press, I would probably, again, go to that kind of 10 to 15 range. Dumbbell lunge. Now, the goal again is going to be strength and hypertrophy. A dumbbell lunge is not going to be that applicable for what you're doing. And now, if you're, and again, integrating that for mobility and movement, perfect. But velocity and tension have an inverse relationship. So if you're using dynamic motions, you're limiting how much tension you're getting. And since the primary goal is maximal strength and hypertrophy, you already have a split squat. We don't really need a dumbbell lunge pattern here. If you wanted to do something like a post-exhaust, which is kind of the theme of this training phase, you might be better off putting that leg extension after the leg press, and then maybe thinking about going up to like 10 reps of leg press, because you already have a really good high tension strength movement with the squat. Leg curl, leg extension, and those are good pairings. But again, most of the time, flexion-based isolation work can work really well with low reps. So don't have a problem, say like leg curl, biceps curl, things like that at 85% or under 5 reps. But leg extension, not a great choice for low reps. So I would probably tell you to crank the reps up for that one. Right? You can do leg extension for low reps, and to me, it's just not practical, and it's way too much potential for injuring yourself or getting a niggle over time. Calf raises, you've got let's see, 2 failure seated leg press. All right, so I'm assuming you're doing like a leg press, kind of a straight knee leg press. So don't have a problem with that. You're looking at same conversation we had last time. Just kind of get some clarity on how many reps you're doing. Like set that range. Find a weight that allows you to get to that range, and then add weight until you can't, and then work on building reps. So that's fine, having like a rep goal with a certain amount of weight and improving muscle endurance. Bodyweight squats to failure, I don't see any point of having that in. So I'd probably remove that because it's just extra work you don't need. You already have safety bar squat, split squat, leg press, lunge, which again, we could change that to something else, and leg extension. So you have a shit ton of quad work, and the only thing you're really addressing on your posterior chain is your leg curl. So you're just working kind of knee flexion. So it might be a good idea, maybe you remove those bodyweight squats and add in something else that's going to cater more towards posterior chain. So either hip flexion, probably hip flexion, since you already have knee flexion in there, or hip extension, I should say. I just said flexion. Hip extension work. That way you're working glutes, hamstrings, all that from the hip, and then you're also working your hamstrings from a knee flexion position as well. Energy system work, you have 15 minutes at 25%. I don't even know how you measure that at 15%. You're saying you're just walking, right? Again, that's fine. You want to do that as a cool down. I think that makes more sense than what you were doing on the upper body day when you were doing like a bunch of sprints on that day. I don't, there's no real reason for that to be there. I think if you're just going to do that for recovery, even walking at the end of the upper body workout is probably going to be a better idea. And you can walk and sip on your post-workout feed, since you're not doing that at high intensity anyways. And I would tell you too, for cardiac output, if 25%, I'm assuming you mean heart rate, like that, heart rate max. If you're doing cardiac output work, do cardiac output work. So if you're going to do that, like walking, unless you're really, really out of shape, walking is not great for cardiac output work. We probably want to crank that up a little bit, and somewhere around like say 60 to 70% heart rate max might be a better idea. And then again, you have some kind of cool down movements that you don't actually really need. So I would probably get rid of those and just keep those on my mobility days. Your ARD flexibility movement by Dave. Okay, again, I don't know what that is, but yin yoga, I think that's great. Getting stuff on YouTube or on Gaia and doing the yin yoga, that's fantastic. The thing I like about yoga, and I'm not specifically going to paint myself in a corner by power yoga versus yin yoga versus Bikram and all that stuff. I just like yoga if you're taking your time with it, and easing into the positions and not going beyond your capabilities, it's a good way to minimize the time you need to devote to mobility work. So just like with strength training, if you get stuck on your bench press, it's like, okay, we can use progressive overload. We can move some parameters around like sets and reps, but you also look at it as, okay, where am I failing in the lift? So maybe it's off the chest, or maybe it's at lockout. It gives you the ability to then think about that and strategize on how do I remove that weak spot. Yoga's good at that too, where you're like, okay, I can't get into this position. What needs to be fixed here to get me into that position? And so then you do more isolation work, like some of the stuff you're doing with your other mobility, to end up getting over that plateau in your yoga movements. So uh, I don't give yoga to a lot of people because we do a lot more highly specific thing, because most of my clients are more interested in kind of what you said you're interested here with maximal strength and hypertrophy. But what we'll use is a lot of gymnastics type stuff, calisthenics stuff that are more isolated. So, and slightly compound types of lifts or movements. But when somebody gets to the point where they're fairly bendy, yoga makes a really good platform to maintain that, especially if you have a really good program for that ticks all the boxes like you would with your strength and conditioning work. The only time I can't stand yoga is when if you go to a class and the yoga instructor thinks that everybody wants to be a Cirque du Soleil contortionist. And the last class I'll probably ever go to, I got in a position and the instructor came and started pushing me into a deeper position, and I thought I tore my taint. So you be really careful if you're going to classes, but at least with like streaming at home, you can do it to your own capabilities, which is really important. And let's see. Now here's your pull day. Okay, I think we've said all we need to say about like the warm-ups and the movement preps and the cool downs. Like a lot of this stuff is unnecessary. Be a bit more streamlined in what you're doing there, and more specific to the workout. So you've got bent over barbell row. Okay, sets of 5, nothing wrong with that. But then you got a biceps curl. So depending on how you're doing that row, using overgrip, undergrip, neutral grip, wide grip, lots of different grips. But those bicep curls may impact how you're performing on that bent over row. So it might be better to remove those biceps curls, put them somewhere else. You could actually, now that I'm looking at this alongside that other one, why don't you don't think about it as a pull day. Just think of it as like back, and maybe throw in some triceps there, because you actually could, if you took this bicep curl and replace the triceps extension on your day one, you could move your tricep extension here and put them with a barbell row, and it wouldn't make any impact. I don't mind the 4 sets of 5, but if you're wanting to increase volume and time under tension, then you might consider taking those bicep curls to a higher rep range again. It also depends on your training age. If you feel like maybe you're strong, maybe you're average strength, maybe you're a little bit above average strength, but the isolation work with the really low reps, even though a lot of flexion stuff is okay with that, you probably want to spend more time with a little bit more rep volume on those for a while, and go to the sets of 5 in phases where you might do like an entire arm day. This is the way I would do it, right? Lat pull downs, 5, nothing wrong with that. Seated cable rows, 5. So you got like a lat movement, and depending on how you're doing the cable row, upper back movement. I don't see any problem there. It's going to create a lot of fatigue in both those areas. So both those areas are going to suffer a little bit, but when you go, I want maximal strength, I'm assuming you don't want, you're not really focused on getting maximal strength in your pull downs and your cable rows anyways. So that's just a good bit of extra volume for growth. There's nothing wrong with that. Dumbbell pullover, sets of 5, that same conversation, man, you might want to bring your rep ranges up. It just depends on how you're doing those pullovers. So and it depends on your shoulder health as well. If you were doing those at 5 and hanging out in the stretch position, that's probably a good thing, and going to your level of shoulder flexion. But if you aren't that mobile through the shoulders, especially through shoulder flexion, I would not be doing sets of 5 unless it was doing sets of 5 and staying in a lengthened position, right? So something to think about there is dumbbell pullover, not a great, again, not a great exercise to do really heavy unless you're really well trained. And even then, I would say really heavy is probably not a great, it's not a great shoulder position for super heavy in that, right? Maybe on a machine or something that governs how much range of motion you have. But if something should happen that is nefarious in the shoulder, or you lose focus or something happens, you're in a great position to really fuck your shoulder up. So I'm always looking at the parameters on, is it a hell yes or a hell no? And so if it's a position where the risk goes up, but the reward doesn't go up to match that, then it's always a hell no. If we're doing a riskier position for a certain reason, and that is going to give me a hell yes, then we might do it but proceed with caution. But anytime you're in a joint is in a fragile position with a really long moment arm, and you're removing a lot of pieces of the puzzle, like removing your elbow from it, and basically concentrating everything on your shoulder with a really long lever, then you might really sit there and think about what is the worst that could happen. And if something bad could happen, like you fuck up your shoulder, or you said that left shoulder, I think is the one you said you dislocated, that's doing that heavy is probably not going to be great for that shoulder, since you've already had issues with it. So start to think about that. Maybe use lower intensity and a little bit higher rep range. Renegade rows, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I don't use them. Maybe if somebody was looking at like more movement centric and less off maximal strength and hypertrophy, maybe we use renegade rows. But I think renegade rows are going to be more beneficial, or going to be less beneficial in a strength and hypertrophy routine. There is many rowing movements that are going to be more productive than that. Pull-ups at the end. Okay, banded if max. Guys, take the bands off your fucking pull-ups, right? If you're going to do banded pull-ups, just do pull-downs. Get your pull-up strength stronger, right? Using bands is never going to give you a great pull-up. Now, that being said, using the bands or using like a Gravitron, like an assisted pull-up machine, if it's just for building volume and just creating fatigue and creating hypertrophy, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But like you look at this maximal strength, like that, the pull up is a great one for maximal strength. So I don't know why it's not earlier in the workout. So that's where I would put it. And then if you're going to do, like, if you want more back volume, pick something that's a bit more isolated, or something that's in a better position to perform without needing to use a lot of training aids, like adding a band. You add a band in, you're losing most of the tension at the bottom of the movement. And so probably better off to just keep the bands out and just get really strong at pull-ups. And then this is another one, like pull-ups with a hanging leg raise. So you've already fatigued your hands, and you've been like hanging out in a lot of shoulder flexion, and then you move into a hanging leg raise. I don't think it's a very good pairing. I would just keep the hanging leg raises on their own. And I personally would probably put the hanging leg raises on your lower body day, and just keeping everything here to your upper, and not throwing in like a core movement or something like that in with this. Something else I was going to say on that. Yeah, you're using ab straps. Okay, so you're using ab straps. So that's not the end of the world, but I would tell you that I don't think it belongs in this workout. It belongs more in your lower body days for sure. And, something I don't see here, I don't see any like direct scapular work. I don't see any type of like rotator cuff work. You're probably better off putting the core movement to the lower body, and then moving, like adding in some type of like shoulder remedial work. So you could look at power raises, lower trap raises, Cuban press, Cuban rotations, something like that, where you could strengthen the joint directly, because you have a lot of prime mover stuff here, and you don't have any type of work for the deep rotators, like the rotator cuff. So I would really highly recommend thinking about doing something like that. And then you've got some more energy system work. Okay, again, I don't think it belongs in this workout. I think like removing some mobility and do this on the mobility days would be a good idea, because you could also take some of this energy system work and you could combine it. You could do something like those 7-second alactic sprints. You could do that and then rest 5 minutes and do your 15-minute lower intense walking and conditioning. You could do that in one workout. And by doing that, you wouldn't have to train like energy system work 4 days a week. You actually could do it 3 days a week, but do a little bit more intensive sessions and then get rid of some of the extra mobility stuff would probably be better. And one more. So we have a deadlift with a good morning. I don't hate that pairing. I don't particularly like the low reps with the good mornings, especially after fatiguing that with a deadlift. I think you're better off maybe a seated good morning, but even if you're doing a standing good morning with that, there's no problem with that, but I would probably, again, raise the rep ranges. And, you're looking at like post-exhaust, or we also call like heavy light. It might be a better idea to do this as a heavy light and do heavy on the deadlifts, lighter on the good mornings with more rep ranges. Again, it's that to me, there's too much potential for something going wrong. Or you could look at something like use it if you're going to go 4 sets of 5 and then a 4 sets of 5. Maybe you just use a similar but different exercise that's a big boy exercise, like doing a clean deadlift and then supersetting that with a snatch deadlift, or a snatch deadlift and supersetting it with a clean deadlift, so you keep the movement patterns very similar. Or you could even do that A1 deadlift with the B1 RDL. You could do that as well. That way you don't have this where you're fatiguing the back and fatiguing you're not like you're fatiguing the spine, whether you're doing any of these three anyways, but at least with the RDL, you don't have the bar on your back. So it might be better off to do a deadlift with the RDL and keep your good mornings to a separate set like the B1. And kettlebell swing, same conversation we had with like the dumbbell lunge. It's a high velocity movement. It's not really a high tension movement. So I'm like, why do we have that there? Because that at the end of the workout, when you're doing like AMRAPs, maybe you put the kettlebell swing as the AMRAP instead. Because you might be having fun, or you might just like a kettlebell swing. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's not illegal to have fun in your workouts, but there is a proper and where there's a more beneficial, less beneficial way of sequencing exercises. And like with that RDL and kettlebell swing, if you wanted to do contrast training for like power and speed, then that may be a good pairing. But if it's maximal strength hypertrophy, I don't think that exercise belongs there. And you've got a trap bar deadlift like later in the workout. So you have one of the exercises where you're going to be able to lift the most, and you're putting it at a position where you're fatiguing. So why don't we move that earlier in the training? So maybe even look at that. You've got like 2 deadlift variations. You have deadlift, you have the trap bar deadlift, a good morning, and an RDL. So you have like these 3 or 4 movements that are very similar in nature, and no knee flexion. It's just all hip, 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 and spine, 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 spine. So you've got a tremendous amount of volume that you're dedicating to really fatiguing the shit out of your back. So I think some of this crossover that we have, slim that stuff out. So maybe like instead of that trap bar deadlift, pick a deadlift or trap bar deadlift, one or the other. Pick a good morning or an RDL, one or the other. That way you don't have too much overlap. Or if you wanted to do like trap bar deadlift to deadlift, or deadlift to trap bar deadlift, or you wanted to do like a good morning to an RDL, those would make much better pairings. And then again, think about the reps like we've been talking about. The barbell hip thrust, not a problem there. Pairing it with the trap bar deadlift, I think that's actually a pretty decent pairing. But if you look into the research on hip thrust, everybody's like doing these maximal effort hip thrusts. Now, I was able to find 3 papers looking at muscle fiber. There's not a lot of papers on muscle fiber makeup of the glutes, and most of them show that the glutes are more they're more biased towards slow twitch fiber, not by a lot, but it's like if you already have a lot of this really heavy stuff that's hitting your glutes, maybe we think about taking that hip thrust as something that's going to hit a different muscle fiber. That way you're not just focusing on fast twitch fiber this whole workout. Back extensions for an AMRAP, nothing wrong with that. It's safe to do as an AMRAP. I like it. The glute bridges, to failure. It's like, all right, so you got one set of that, but you've hit all this other glute stuff. Like, I don't understand the purpose of that. So I'd probably remove it, because you got plenty of work with all the big primary stuff. 2-minute assault bike, don't need it, get rid of it. Your movement prep, 2 movement prep with your deep split squat pancake stretch and your modified pigeon stretch. I don't have a problem with that. It's low volume. If that gets the rotators and get your hips ready to do your posterior chain stuff, I like it. But I think too, like with what you've set up, I think this will be better as an upper lower instead of a specific body part deal. Because I think you'd probably be better off with like doing a session where you had maybe squats and knee flexion, and then you had some type of hip extension, and then like a split squat, so that you're kind of doing all of your basic lower body patterns on one day, and then the next one you could hit your deadlifts. Maybe you hit deadlifts with maybe put your core work there, like hit deadlifts and superset that with some type of ab movement, and then your accessory supplementary work have a good blend of hamstring and quad. I think that would be a more optimal way of doing it. So I think you should think about it doing that way, and you could still do it with your post exhaust if you wanted to, because you could even do you could do your A1 squat, your A2, your split squat if you wanted to. On the next lower body day, maybe you do your deadlift and then a trap bar deadlift, or you do your deadlift and like an RDL or something like that. And then you move on to either quad or hamstring, depending on what you did in that first one. But I think you'd probably be better off with a lot more frequency than trying to do a lot of movement patterns that are very similar in the same workout. I think your recovery would probably be a lot better for it. And then let's try to eliminate some of that overlap. Right, that 2-mile assault bike, get rid of that. Put it on another day. Let's look at your carry day. I did want to talk about this as well. So you got a lot of carry stuff here. This could be massively slimmed down. So I would look at this because you're using it for like core stability. You're looking at improve your upper back strength, your core strength, your hip strength, all that. It is too much shit going on. Right, you got farmer's carry, HL carry. I have no idea what that means. Suitcase carry, so a single-sided like farmer's walk. You got a goblet carry, you got a rack carry. Goblet carry, rack carry, depending on how you're carrying that. I don't know if you're looking at front rack or back rack, but you've got double rack carry. I'm assuming that's the kettlebells, like a front rack position. So you have like that goblet, the rack, and the double rack is basically very similar. It's all the same shit. So like choose one of those and work on that. Waiter's walk bottoms up, goblet shuffle, and a rack and a suitcase carry. Like you just got a lot. Like you got a lot of shit, a lot of overlap here. You can slim this down a lot. So I personally would rather see that you minimize how many exercises you have here, since they're all basically working off the same theme, and then maybe you just add some more reps. So maybe you cut this down by half, and then index it out where you have like, okay, I've got goblet carry, rack carry, double rack carry. Those are essentially, if they're what I'm thinking, all roughly the same thing. Pick one of those. You have farmer's carry and a suitcase carry, which are similar, but they're very different as well. So you go from a farmer's carry or double to a single farmer's carry. So you could probably keep both of those in. So yeah, I think you'd be better streamlining this quite a bit. And then make a primary focus that you're going to work on. And then when you're satisfied with that, you can then switch this out for something else that you now practice, right? So if you had like a goblet carry, you had that for training phase, and then you move to a rack carry, have that for a training phase, then you go to a double rack carry and have that for a training phase, then you go back to the goblet carry, and then you can rotate through these, right? But what we want to minimize is a lot of superfluous work that we don't actually need. And if you have a lot of carryover, try to pick something. And focus on building strength in that movement. Then go to the next movement and build strength in that. Because you're much better off when you think about strength as being a skill. Part of getting stronger is teaching the brain what it is you want to do. making the brain becomes more efficient and productive at learning when to turn muscles on and off at the right firing pattern. So a lot of it is just learning the movement and then loading that movement, creating a stimulus, and then rest, load the movement, rest, load the movement. And then when you get to the point where the movement is not progressing, let's teach the brain a different movement that's similar but has a little bit different demand. So then it's kind of fresh again. And then you just carry on this process. When that movement gets to a point where you're either really bored or you've maximized what you're going to do with that, go to another movement. And then you can have 3 or 4 movements that are similar but a little bit different, and you just rotate through those. It'll help with boredom, and it'll help you not get stagnant in your workouts, right? So every time you change something a little different, your brain's going to kind of go through that rewiring pattern because of a slight different demand, and you'll see progress coming again. When that slows down, change the movement and give the brain a little bit extra stimulus on what to do, right? But I do think you've got way too much carryover. I think you're trying to polish too many turds in this. I think you just remove some turds and try to polish a couple of turds instead of trying to polish like 6 turds at one time. And I think you'd be all right.